Good morning. Welcome to Tea, Coffee, and Torah, episode 25. I'm so thrilled to have you with me this morning. And just a point of clarification here, after 25 episodes, I finally have some tea. I'm having some ginger turmeric tea. And it is simply delicious. It is a cold, beautiful fall morning. Fall has finally arrived. And after about 30 days after Helene, we have actually had some rain last night. So hallelujah for that. I am very, very grateful. This morning we are talking about prophet scholarship in ancient Israel. And I want to reiterate some of the parameters that I am working on, some of the foundation of ideas that I am working on with this study. When a prophet quotes, and yes, I'm still nasal. Sorry about that, but I am still nasal this morning. When a prophet quotes directly from a text that is today in the written Torah, or when he paraphrases it, or he refers to it, that is one really good way for us to say or to identify what could be either an original text or at least a text that prophet would have had at his disposal. He could have referred to it. The other thing is that with that reference, those specific references, we cannot rule that document out if it has these specific references in it. Again, from my studies, I have seen that the Torah that would have existed in the wilderness would have comprised many books. If you look at some of the ancient sources, like if you go to Tibet or even in Ghana, and you look at some of the libraries that you have, you find that those libraries contained many, many scrolls. It was divided much further, isolated, much greater than the versions we have today that have been edited and compiled together. So what we're looking for through the ages, through the history of transcribing the text, what information, what concepts would that prophet have had? I would like to convince you, I would like to convert you to the overwhelming evidence that exists for prophets using scholarship in ancient Israel. And this is an idea of scholarship that exists today. So prophets would quote from the original source, which was the written Torah. They would use that as the basis and the justification, just as we would quote from a law code today. They did that. And then they would quote from their predecessors. And this showed a couple things. Number one, it showed that they were upholding their predecessors' interpretation. It also shows the legitimacy of that interpretation, but it also shows and reveals that they held to ideals within a primary document or documents. The other thing that I hope this study challenges is the idea that prophecy is a state of ecstasy, where all of a sudden the Spirit of God comes upon them and they just prophesy. While that does happen, it is very, very rare, especially for the prophet's written record that we have today. Oftentimes when it says the word of Yahweh unto, many times that is a signal of this is my interpretation of the law, which is actually a very legitimate interpretation. Just because it is something that is given in that context or given in that way does not diminish from a divine inspiration. Many people are divinely inspired when they study the text, and they can do it very logically and rationally without having to be in a trance or having to have mysticism or anything like that. The other thing that I find with this study is that the concepts really reveal what ancient sources the prophets were working on as well. Deuteronomy 4:10 states, teach these statutes, judgments, laws, teach all of this covenant, teach everything to your children. And if Israel did that, they very likely had memorized the text. They probably knew it by heart. I know, very early in America's history, there were many people that actually knew the U.S. Constitution by heart. They could recite it. In a classical education, before our modern distractions, that was something that was very, very common to find in children. Even today, Jews that attend a yeshiva, their education is so thorough that they memorize entire books of the Bible. And there's even, in my Christian circles as well, there's many children that know entire passages and they know them by heart. So kind of, Jeremiah's idea that, or in Isaiah, that we're going to write the Torah on your heart. Well, you do that by memorizing it, internalizing it, and it becomes a part of you. So the other thing that I want to address is the fact that once a document becomes spread throughout, everybody has knowledge of it. It really becomes this source of a collective memory where the entire society knows about it. Just like today, the U.S. Constitution is a collective memory among Americans. Not every American can quote it verbatim. Not every American can recite all the amendments. But most of us know that the First Amendment protects free speech, the Second Amendment protects gun rights, and so on. So there is a basic collective understanding that remains throughout society over the centuries. Now, it's very interesting. When we looked at, and before I go any further, let me just mention here for a minute. I did upload a text last night. It's a document for you to refer to. Just a note, I don't recommend printing this, just refer to it on your computer. But if you want to print this, I suggest that you print it out in portrait. And what I did is I took them as leaves, and I just simply, you can see this is the middle leaf and the third leaf. So the first leaf, second leaf, and the third leaf. I just taped them together in the back because you really have to see these ideas horizontally in order to kind of see where they repeat and to see everywhere that they are used. In no way what I am presenting in this Excel spreadsheet, is it comprehensive? Is it thorough? I am wanting to give you an idea. I'm wanting to delve in and show you where those concepts come from. So last week we saw, or rather, I guess last episode 24, we saw that Jeremiah refers to an ancient text in Jeremiah 2:20. And he does this by saying, he says, in old time, or in forever, from forever, meh olam, which is an idea that, it's an age, a very long age. And he does that, and it indicates that he is quoting from something specific. And we find that there is indeed a direct parallel with Leviticus 26:13 that he is quoting from. Today we're going to look at Jeremiah 2:2. And I am skipping around a little bit just because I'm trying to give definite proofs as well as combine ideas where they are mentioned many, many times. And I am beginning with Jeremiah, and I'm looking backwards because Jeremiah is a later text. So if we can see some of the things very, very late that Jeremiah had at his disposal, that helps us to understand those other texts that he may have had a little bit earlier. So Jeremiah 2:2 uses the word, where Jeremiah 2:20 said met olam and referred to something that was very ancient. In Jeremiah 2:2, he says remember, zakar. So when you have this idea of remembering is, number one, a collective memory of society, but that collective memory is based on an original written text that the society memorized, that became part of the culture, part of that society. So today we are going to look at, and if you have your chart, please grab it. Again, it's very, very long. So if you print it out, do print it out in portrait and just, put the leaves together. So I don't expect to go through the entire evidence today. We're going to probably break this over 2 to 3 discussions together. And I would appreciate your feedback. I appreciate your comments always. So please put those in the comments below, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. So if you look at Jeremiah 2:2, this is what the text says. It says, "Go and cry in the ears of Jerusalem, saying, Thus says Yahweh, I remember you, the kindness of your youth, the love of your espousals, when you went after me in the wilderness, in a land that was not sown." And so we have 2 main concepts here. One, we have the idea that originally that Israel was in the wilderness, but during this time in the wilderness, it was a betrothal, it was an espousal, a marriage in the wilderness. And this really defines Yahweh's initial interaction with Israel, and it is conceptualized as a marriage covenant. Now, Jeremiah, we're going to go, let's look at Jeremiah 3:14 and 15, because this is reiterated. This probably would have originally been in the same passage that Jeremiah would have been speaking of without our modern chapter divides. It says, "Turn, O backsliding children, says Yahweh, for I am married to you, and I will take you, one from a city and 2 for a family, and bring you to Zion. And I will give you pastors according to my heart, which shall feed you with knowledge and understanding." So again, this is the idea of a marriage and a return, and that Yahweh's heart is involved in what he is doing, which should all be part of a marriage covenant. Hopefully there's some heart in that marriage covenant. Then we're going to look at where Jeremiah gets these ideas. Where did they originate from? And I'm beginning with these in the order just because these are the order that we have them today. We find in Exodus 20 verses 5 and 6, it says, "I, Yahweh, am your God, a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers on the children of the 3rd and 4th generations of those who hate me, but showing loving kindness to thousands of those who love me and keep my commandments." So you find that love is expressed, according to the biblical context, as keeping the commandments. But this Exodus text indicates a covenant relationship. It indicates something where Israel is married to Yahweh. And the word jealous modernly is come under fire because people don't like the idea of jealousy. But if you're entering into a monogamous relationship with someone, and you should be a little jealous if that person is looking at other people. In this case, it's going to be Israel looking at other deities. So, Yahweh has a right to be jealous of Israel and not wanting to share her with other gods. I don't think that's outside the realm of, something that is acceptable. Now, the text that really solidifies this idea of a marriage covenant is going to be Deuteronomy 7 through 10. And this is really where Yahweh defines, or Moses defines, Israel's covenanting with Yahweh at Mount Sinai as a covenant relationship. And it says in Deuteronomy 7:7, "Yahweh did not set his love upon you, nor choose you because you were more in number than any of the other people, for you were the fewest of all peoples, but because Yahweh loved you and kept the oath which he swore to your fathers, and brought you out of the land of Egypt by a mighty hand." Now, this mighty hand, we don't find details of this mighty hand in Deuteronomy. We find the details of this mighty hand within the book of Exodus, within the first 12 chapters of the book of Exodus. So here we have Deuteronomy 7 referring to something that is in another text. It says, "And redeemed you from the house of slavery and from the hand of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. Know therefore that Yahweh your God, he is the faithful God who keeps the covenant and is loving kindness to 1,000 generations of those who love him and keep his commandments." So here again, we have the idea that love is expressed through obedience to the commandments. And again, it's this idea that Israel's covenant with Yahweh was a marriage. It was a marriage between a nation and a people and a deity. Deuteronomy 6, 5 through 6. It says, and you shall love Yahweh with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your might. And these words which I command you this day shall be in your heart. Now, again, this is a very covenant language. This is something where Israel has entered into this marriage contract with God. And just as Yahweh has set his love, he has decided, there's even some text that says that Yahweh set his desire on Israel. Even as Yahweh has done that, Israel should reciprocate. They should equally love the God that is doing all this for them, the God that is providing them all these blessings, all these benefits. It should be something that is a kind of a give and take, because that needs to be expressed on both sides. Now, the synthesis here, which is the final column that I have on this worksheet, is that in setting his love upon Israel, it is this monogamous relationship. Israel is chosen. Other nations are not chosen. But, with great knowledge, with this great gift of being chosen, there is incredible responsibility for obedience. And this is why in Deuteronomy and Leviticus 26, Yahweh goes to great lengths to describe all of the curses that will come upon this chosen people if they rebel. So it's really kind of, in some ways, like a modern ketubah, where here's the blessings, here's the benefits of this contractual relationship, but at the same time, here are some of the curses or some of the consequences should you rebel against that. So I'm going to stop there today. I do want to keep these short. The next, on episode 26, we are going to go into this idea of Yahweh wooing Israel in the wilderness, and the idea that the marriage compact occurred during the time that Israel was in the wilderness. So thank you for joining me. I would love any feedback. If you want to private message me, please do. I've enjoyed having you with me this morning. If you missed it, please go back and rewatch it. And again, I did post earlier today, or I think I posted it last night, the sheet that goes along with this discussion. And it is in 3 leaves. So if you print it out as portrait. And I just taped the 3 leaves together so that way you could read all the way across and you could see how Jeremiah is quoting from either Exodus or Deuteronomy in his ideology. And it is really those concepts, because Jeremiah did not find these concepts in Egypt. He did not find them in Babylon. He did not find them among other nations. The only place that you find these concepts is within the written Torah that he could have referred to in his scholarship when composing his text. So please go back and check out that document, and I look forward to seeing you Friday morning, 9 a.m. on Tea, Coffee, and Torah. Thank you for joining me.